George Washington. And basically that's saying dupes and sellouts will never stand up against corruption, so they will be given the largesse of the government chest or of the tyrant. But those who won't go along with it will end up being labeled as the terrorist and being rounded up. So that's basically what George Washington had to say for us on that point. Now, I had Stewart Rhodes, founder of Oathkeepers, on the radio for about an hour today, getting into the history of military commissions and secret arrest of citizens and basically martial law in America, now that the NDAA is law. And he's the founder and director of Oathkeepers. He served as a U.S. Army paratrooper until disabled in a rough terrain parachuting accident during a night jump. He's a firearms instructor and a former member of Representative Ron Paul's D.C. staff. He's also written for SWAT magazine. He's a graduate from Yale Law School, where he won one of their most prestigious awards, Solving the Puzzle of Enemy Combatant Status. It won Yale's Miller Prize for Best Paper on the Bill of Rights. And he also was taught for the U.S. military history at Yale. And it just goes on from there. He's a real expert on the dangers of applying the rules of war to the American people. And he joins us to condense the history of where our republic has come from and where it's going. The same problems we face today we've been through before. And the tyrants are pretty lazy. They just rewrite old stuff that's already been overturned. And then I wanted him to basically have a call to the police and military to choose who they will serve, because the NDAA, though we fought it, has really done something good. It's a silver lining. And that is, it's really proven for everybody that we do have a criminal government at the top and that they really are tyrants. And it's woken a lot of people up. So the wheat is being separated from the chaff. Stewart with Oathkeepers.org, great to have you here with us. You've got the floor, my friend, for the next 20 minutes. Tell us where we stand.
Well, the bottom line is what's happening to us right now is exactly what happened to the Founding Fathers that compelled them to take up arms in defense of their traditional rights as Englishmen and also in defense of their natural rights as human beings. And the exact same causes and grievances that they suffered, we are suffering now. Among those listed in our Declaration of Independence were denial of jury trial and the attempt to make the military superior to the civil power, and also the claimed power to whisk a colonist overseas to be tried in England rather than in front of a jury of their peers in the colonies. And one more charge against the king was that he was attempting to subject them to a jurisdiction foreign to their constitution. And this bill and the prior actions of two administrations now, both Bush administrations and the Obama administrations, do all of those. The claim is that the powers of the commander-in-chief during wartime apply not just to a foreign enemy, but also apply to Americans, and that Americans can be treated exactly the same as a goat herder in Iraq. If a goat herder in Iraq is accused of stealing a neighbor's goat, well, he'll get a normal Iraqi trial. But if the U.S. military thinks he's a member of the resistance, then they will just pick him up. Or if they think he's supporting the resistance, they'll just pick him up and put him into military jurisdiction, and he'll wind up in Guantanamo. And the claim is that they can do the exact same thing here at home. Our Constitution, from the very beginning, has had a sharp line of separation between what can be done to a foreign enemy and what can be done to an American citizen. An Iraqi cannot be accused of treason because they don't owe any loyalties to the United States. A U.S. citizen or lawful resident, on the other hand, can be accused of treason because we do owe loyalty to the United States. And that's exactly what's supposed to be done with an American who's accused of making war against the United States or aiding its enemy. As the Article 3, Section 3 treason clause in the Constitution plainly states, it defines treason as consisting only in levying war against the United States or adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. And it says no person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses to the same overt act or on confession in open court. So there are extra protections. There's requirement for two witnesses, not just one, and not secret evidence or secret witnesses, two witnesses, and or confession in open court, because the founders had experienced denial of jury trial. Parliament had passed laws that stripped away jury trial in certain cases. They had passed laws to expand the jurisdiction of the admiralty courts, which were their military tribunals back then. So they had suffered those abuses. And to prevent that from ever happening again, Article 3, Section 2 mandates that all crimes must be tried by jury, and then Article 3, Section 3 defines the crime of treason and tells you exactly what must be done, and it provides additional procedural protections. And this is what's being violated right now by the president and also by Congress and also by the courts. The U.S. Supreme Court, unfortunately, in 1942, threw the Bill of Rights in the trash can and authorized military trial of a U.S. citizen. That is the precedent they've grabbed a hold of now and are using today. And a modern Supreme Court in 2004, in the Hamdi case, the case of a U.S. citizen being detained, reaffirmed and grabbed that old World War II precedent. It's totally illegitimate. It directly violates the Treason Clause, and it violates the rest of the Bill of Rights, the 4th, 5th, 6th Amendments. You have a right to a grand jury indictment. You have a right to a jury trial in the state in which the crime is alleged to have been committed. And Justice Scalia, in his dissent in Hamdi, is spot on. He said, this is ridiculous. You're directly violating the Treason Clause. You're violating the Constitution. What you're doing is not under the Constitution. It's illegitimate, and that's why he dissented. And so what's going on right now is that everything the founders put in place, everything your forefathers bled and fought and died for, and everything they put in the Bill of Rights to make sure that the government could not escape the chains of the Constitution, that's all being turned on its head, as though we were in Nazi Germany or Stalinist Russia. The same thing our forefathers fought against, fascism, is now on our shores and being imposed upon us by domestic enemies of our Constitution. And the message to all the military out there is that, just like I did when I served as a young paratrooper, whatever your branch is, when you swore that oath to support and defend the Constitution, it was against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And the founders put that requirement of that oath in the Constitution itself in Article 6. They mandated that you must take an oath, and everyone must take an oath. Every person in the branch in the government takes an oath. Unfortunately, all three branches now have directly violated their oath. They are oath breakers. They are violating the Constitution. And frankly, what they're doing is treason against the Constitution, because they are making war on the American people. There is no power, nowhere in the Constitution is Congress given the authority and the power to declare war on the American people or to wage war on the American people. And quite the opposite. There's a separation between what can be done to a foreign enemy and what can be done to us. That is now being torn down. You must defend it. This is your test. If you do not stand up and defend the Constitution, if you do not refuse any such orders and be prepared to defend the rights of the people, if you don't do that, then what you will have become is an oath breaker and a traitor to your country. And God have mercy on your soul, because an oath is a sacred obligation under God that you will do as you said you would. It's a promise. And everything your forefathers fought and died for will have been destroyed. I know a World War II veteran who's 101st Airborne. He fought at the Battle of the Bulge. He's 91 years old. And I talked to him the other day, and he is angry at the fact that everything he fought against, that he went overseas along with his brothers to go fight against fascism, and now he sees it happening here. And so if you let this come to America and you let it happen on your watch, then you might as well go down to Arlington and spit on the graves of every war dead in this country's history from 1775 on will have been for nothing if you let this happen. So you have to do what you swore you would do. You have to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You have to have the same courage you would have in combat. You're willing to go and fight and die, like I was when I served, and as I still am right now as a veteran. You have to have the same dedication and willingness to give your life in defense of the Constitution as you would in defense of your buddies in combat. It's the same thing. And as a veteran, I got to tell you that you will not just slide into the Fourth Reich. because us veterans will not let that happen. We will resist, and if it comes to it, we will fight. We will exhaust, like our forefathers, we will exhaust all peaceful remedies to defend our rights. But if pushed up against the wall in the same way the founders were, with a long train of abuses, which is what's happening now, we will fight also. And so that's our message from the veterans to the current serving, is that you will have to kill us all. There are 25 million veterans in this country, and if you violate your oath and attempt to detain American citizens or apply the laws of war, including just killing us, if you try to do that, we will fight.
Stewart,
you'll have to kill us all.
Very powerful, Stewart. I just want to add a caveat here that humans, as we pointed out today on the radio, we go through the same cycles. Doesn't matter what color, what culture. Humans are humans. We do the same stuff over and over again. Every historian, every anthropologist, every sociologist, I got chills just now, admits we're going into a very decadent cycle. The whole world, top universities recognize America is becoming fascistic. The NDAA does do what we say it does, even though there's these denials, because they want to have these powers, but they don't want to admit it so we can have a political fight over it. They want to stealthily implement this. And I get so many emails and calls and comments on the street of, well, what can we do? Or, well, I have nothing to hide. Okay, it's a tyranny, but I'm not fighting against it. A tyranny is like a lion eating gazelles. It's eating gazelles because that's what it does. Like a gazelle doesn't say, well, I'm a friendly little gazelle, so the lion isn't going to try to eat me. This is what tyrannies do. And you notice they're taking the military death benefits through fraud. They're stealing houses that people have paid for through fraud, the big banks. The government's caught laundering drug money and shipping drugs in and shipping guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. And the proofs of it, of the corruption, it's luminous. Special interests came in, took over the government, and are doing whatever they want. That's tyranny. And we have let it happen. And now we're so far down the line, the criminals know we're waking up, so they're trying to pass laws to declare people that are standing up for freedom and common sense and due process as the terrorist. And we have all their training manuals. So people have to understand, tyrannies will reduce us to despotism. They will reduce us to poverty like a third world country, because that's the nature of what these people do. And their fruits are bondage and servitude and pain and poverty. And we've got to turn this around now. And I'd like you to speak to the point, to get your perspective and see if you agree, that we fought NDAA, but as you and others have pointed out, they were already implementing this stuff. Now, the fact that it's so naked is really sending out a clarion call. And a lot of people who are on the fence, I'm heartened to see, aren't groveling in fear. They're seeing the illegitimacy of this. They're seeing the enemy fly their Jolly Roger openly. It's piratical. It's openly criminal. And so now the choice is so clear.
That's right. The choice is in front of you. It's so plain, and it is building on what two administrations have already claimed and have already done. President Bush detained 2 American citizens as unlawful combatants. Obama has done even better by killing American citizens, and they're